Thinking about it. There we go. Now we're live.
Oh, hey.
Hey, that's awesome. Hey, everybody, we're going to let it warm up for just a second here. As with all platforms, sometimes YouTube gets it first, then Facebook, then Twitter, etc. So we're going to let it just kind of do its thing. And we'll give it a second here. Also, just so you guys know, I am coming to you live through StreamYard now, which is exciting. So I don't have to do the sharing anymore because it does it all for me to all the platforms. So I'm very excited about that. But yeah, I would say let's jump right into it. Let's hit it.
Okay, cool. I promise I'm not being rude looking at my phone. I'm trying to get the link for this.
Hey, take your time. I got an introduction up my sleeve here, so we're good. All right, you guys, the best drum roll on a glass desk that a nerd can muster. Hey, everybody, it's a comic book look. It's your boy, John on Demand, a.k.a. my voice is half here, but I am fully here. I'm so excited. We are Comic Book Look, proudly sponsored by Rainbow Comics up here in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, as well as Lincoln, Nebraska. And I am not by myself today. I have a very special guest. So we have Patrick is in the building from Titan Comic Pressing.
Yes.
And Patrick, you're based out of Omaha, is that correct?
Yes, Omaha, Nebraska is where I've planted my flag.
Yeah.
But for those who are interested in pressing services, I do a lot of my work through mail. So makes it nice to be centrally located. Midwest is perfect for it because we have a nice amount of humidity, which comics better to have them in humidity than to have them in dry places. So it's one of the best places for that. So yeah, glad to be here. Met John. I was taking a trip up north and stopped by Rainbow Comics. I think for the third time that I've been there. Various times I've gone up north for different trips and camping vacations and things like that. And this time around, John was there and chatted a little bit and said, "Hey, you got a YouTube channel? I got a YouTube channel. Let's do something."
The crossover begins.
Yes. All right. Let me post this real quick.
You're good.
And then you'll have my full attention.
You are all good. So just to give you guys context, I literally told Patrick for the show, no script at all, because being two dedicated folks that we are to the craft of comics, we figured that we could probably easily fill an hour up of things to talk about with a variety of topics. So very excited about that. And today is truly no itinerary. We're just going to wing it and do our best and celebrate awesome things.
Yeah, well, like most comic people, a lot of our time is wrapped up with doing comic things. Who's got time to plan? I got crap to read.
So I guess, yeah, jumping right into it here. I gotta say, first of all, meeting you at Rainbow was probably one of the coolest things ever, and that's one of the things I like about my job is we're like kind of the saloon of awesome people. Like everyone just comes in the door, you know.
Yeah.
And I truly call ourselves the saloon because we're kind of it for a minute in our area.
I've noticed. Yeah, and then that's why whenever I go like on a road trip, when I ever go through kind of larger cities, I look to see what shops are around and remember correctly where Rainbow was it. Which is nice though because it's nice for both for Rainbow and for customers because without that competition. Not that some competitions are nice sometimes, but it makes it a one-stop shop, right? Anybody that's going to be selling old comics, they only really have you to go to. So it all funnels into that one place. So yeah, the store is amazing. I every time I've gone there, I've bought stuff, always find something I'm looking for.
Heck yeah.
It's a great store.
Heck yeah. No, that's awesome, man. Well, my first question, this one's burning a little bit here, but I gotta address those skateboards behind you. They're gorgeous, and I just want to learn about those. So fill me in on this because those really pop.
Yeah, so those are some boards put out by Primitive. The art is all by Mobius. It was a collection of he did 5 of them, and I think at first I had gotten the Spider-Man because Spider-Man's my main boy, and then Silver Surfer just because like Silver Surfer on a deck that makes perfect sense.
Genius.
And then so I bought those, and and then I was trying to think of like how could I hang these two so they're together,
Yeah.
but they look good. And since one's horizontal and one's vertical, I couldn't think of a way to like, because if I had two vertical ones, I could just put two vertical ones or two horizontal ones. So like I couldn't figure out how to do it. And I thought, you know what? If I had the other three, I could make them into a rectangle. So that's what I did.
Heck yeah. Heck yeah.
Picked up the other three. So yeah, I just thought they were super cool. And I got them about when I started doing a little bit of skating. I when the pandemic hit, I took up skating. So
Awesome.
I got them around that time because I was looking at boards and stuff, and like those popped up, and like, well, I don't want to use these. I want to display them. So
yeah, no, that's awesome, man. Well, they look incredible, and I think it's a great backdrop, and so kudos. I think
yeah, it works good. The biggest problem with it is though, like if I ever move, I think I'm probably just going to cut this section of drywall out and take it with me, because hanging those, getting them all even was like the worst experience of my life.
Yeah,
because like they're different size decks. Like some of them are like they're like a 1/4 inch or 1/2 inch larger or smaller than the others.
Yeah.
So trying to get them aligned so that they look. Oh man, it took hours. Like after I got done, like I never want to do this again.
Labor of love. That's right. Yeah. We got YouTube. Sunny D is in the building. I wish my nerd cave was as cool as you guys. Bad news, Sunny D. It actually is, because I've seen it. Sunny D streams StarCraft 2 on Twitch.
Oh, right on.
And he has a fantastic setup with a custom metal light where the back lights change colors and stuff. So it's actually pretty amazing. So he's right up there with us, in my opinion.
Nice. And it looks like you have like mostly like a black light theme going on behind you.
That's right. I have been dubbed the king of blacklight. I had a coworker of mine, Trevor 2.0, was out in Rapid City and scored these two for me. So Pennywise and Michael Myers.
Rad.
But all systems glow. That's my tagline. I have a big black light right over here, so that all pops at night. And
I bet. That looks awesome.
Yeah. I love so these are all original 70s posters. Really? I got them like custom framed and everything.
That's great.
And then I got poster number 4 right there. So they're sharp pieces. They're very spendy. But
they're vintage.
They're amazing. And I have a couple more in tubes downstairs. I just don't have the wall space for it,
Oh, right on. I didn't even know they made things like that. They did back in the 70s. I mean, I know they make black light posters in the 70s, obviously.
Oh yeah.
But like you go back looking for like old comic collectibles.
Yeah.
You don't see a lot of that stuff. I mean, nowhere near where you do today.
That's right.
You might see like they might have some cards or like some cheap toys or whatever. Or you have like, well, like your Migos and things like that. But other than that, like posters, and you don't see a lot of that stuff.
No. It was interesting. Downtown Omaha, there's a couple of those like collectible stores that have the Betty Boop section and whatever. I can't remember the store name. It was amazing though. And right above the register, there was a rug, and then there was a little neon yellow strip peeking out. And Ken calls me over and is like, "You need to see this." And it was a Black Bolt blacklight poster from the series. A couple hundred, and I just scooped it up right away. I was like, dude, I've never even seen this on eBay. Like, yes.
Right.
And it's right here in Omaha. This is awesome. And so it made me really happy. So
it was probably the Imaginarium.
Yes.
Is that it? Okay.
Yeah.
That's kind of the big downtown place here for that kind of stuff.
It's
been a minute since I've been in there.
Oh, they had some cool stuff, and they had another one too. They had the Spider-Man one. That one had a few like creases in it and stuff. So I was like, I'm gonna hold for right now, just because I've seen different versions out there that were in better shape. Sure. But it's really hard when you think about it. They're from 71, and you're like, oh man, it's 2022.
Right. Yeah, it's surprised a lot of those even survived.
Right. But no, they seriously pop. I love them. But yeah, the Marvel Funkos are my main passion. So I got like the Galactus Tower and all that.
Oh, those all Galactus?
I have 3 Galactus. So there's the normal one that's hiding. Then there's the Chase, the orange one, the Lifebringer, and then the other glow in the dark purple.
Gotcha.
And then it's Hulk, and then a bunch of the X-Men little ones. And
okay.
Yeah. So it's crazy.
I got myself out of the pop game. I used to Um, I mean, I have a handful of pops just in one of my other rooms on a shelf, and I always bought them because I like to display them. So I took them out of boxes and threw away the boxes. Like I never bought like the $30 or $40 pops. I'll pay for one I really want. I'll maybe pay $15. If it's more than that, then it's not for me. It's not my big thing. I got bigger things to spend money on. So it's just not for me.
I'm gathering that based on what I'm seeing on your back wall, and I'm biased on one certain book that we're going to talk about later.
Okay, fair enough. Okay.
Yeah.
So I decided to get out of it. Like, first of all, I'm literally out of space. But every once in a while I'll see one and be like, oh man, I want that, but I hold off. It's just, it gets to be too much. Just too much stuff.
Yep.
If you're a fan of nerddom, whether it be comics or this shelf over here, that's all Dungeons and Dragons books going all the way back to first edition.
Yes, my people.
My Mego collection. Let's see, I got a bunch of Transformers there, and on there, and Star Wars, Lego. Like, it's just, you just run out of space, man. It's at some point I just got to stop because I can't fit anymore.
Yeah. Yep, that's exactly where I'm at right now. It's terrible. It's my office down from what you can't see is horrendous right now because I have a lot of books coming in and I don't have a lot of places to fit them right now. So I'm working on that.
Yep, I know that problem.
Yeah. From YouTube, Chop and Drop, customer of ours at Rainbow, Afternoon Comic Book Family. Hope you all had a great weekend. Dude, seriously, it's been a great weekend. And, just getting to connect with other fans is just so fun to talk books. So absolutely. So let's, we kind of touched upon a lot of what's going on there. Tell me about you and Dungeons and Dragons, just because I love D&D.
Oh, man, I unfortunately haven't played in a long time. But I started with 4th edition.
Okay.
I was a bit late to the game, and fell in love with it to the point where I started running my own group, which was my favorite. Like, running games is what I love the most. I love to take the time to create a story and put everything together. Then I went back. I started collecting, old stuff. They came out with the a while ago. They came out with the special edition of the first edition.
Yeah.
So I picked those up, and that started me on the path of just collecting old D&D books. So this entire shelf is just completely full of old D&D books. Unfortunately haven't been able to play lately because the pandemic shut everything down, and then just haven't got a group running back up again.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was pretty hard into it when I was into it. My graduate thesis was centered around Dungeons and Dragons, which made it a lot of fun. I got my master's in computer science, and my thesis was creating like a fairly simple artificial intelligence that built encounters, and you could, you'd still have the DM run them, but it would build and customize the encounters for whatever the group was into. So yeah, that was pretty fun.
That's awesome. With the books on the shelf, are you also doing the current stuff, the 5e modules and adventures and additional players resources?
Yeah. I pick stuff up as they come out. Especially the special edition ones, even in 5e, those look so pretty.
The variant covers, I love those.
Yeah. So whenever one of those comes out, I have 2 local comic shops, and one of them knows, like, whenever they come in, they just put it aside for me because, like, I always pick those up whenever they come in.
Yeah.
I definitely haven't had time to look through all of them yet, but they're there for whenever that happens, which
exactly that long winter, right?
Yeah, right.
So for comic shops down in the Omaha area, there are several. So what are
Yes.
your usual haunts?
So my two main shops are Krypton Comics.
Yep.
And Legend Comics.
Cool.
So Krypton Comics, I worked there in the early to mid 2000s, and just made good connections there. I know the owner, we get along. He still cuts me good deals.
Yeah.
And then Legend Comics are it's actually owned by like personal friends of mine. So I also go there. So I want to support both stores. So I split my pull list in half and have one at one store and one at the other. So every Wednesday I'm I'm going to both. And then the other place that I will go to occasionally when I'm trying to fill in a run is Ground Zero.
Yep.
Because they have 50% off back issues and they'll have some amount of stuff. They're more of a game shop. But if you're looking for filling a run for like things from maybe the mid 80s on, you can find some of the stuff that you might need. I was just there yesterday, actually. I just very recently started putting together a Daredevil run, and went there and got a nice stack of 60 or so books for my Daredevil run. So yeah, those are the three places I'll go to, but Ground Zero is only when I'm looking to fill something in.
Nice. That's awesome. So that's interesting. Ground Zero is technically my very first LCS in life. I was born in Bellevue, Nebraska. And so that's where I used to go. And I was recently down there earlier this year and had a chance to visit the Ralston location, which was fantastic. And so it just makes me happy to see
the Ralston one is the one that I go to.
Yeah.
The Bellevue one, I don't think they're associated with each other. I think they're two separate entities. And yeah, I don't. That one, first of all, Bellevue's a little out of the way for me.
Yeah.
And I went there once to try to find stuff for a run, and like nothing is organized. So I'm like, I'm fine. Nope.
Yep. Worst nightmare.
Yeah, when you're looking for specific stuff, it's got to be organized, or else I'm not going to sit and wade through thousands of boxes.
Tony, I see you checking in with us here on Facebook. Hey, all. Hey, back to you, man. And hopefully you're having a swell weekend out there in Pierce, South Dakota. That's awesome. Yeah, I get it, man. Alphabet is sorting. I can't even talk today, but sorting your comics, whatever system you use, it is so mandatory because there's nothing worse. Like the only place I expect this from are when we go to like, the pawn shops or the places with trillions of booths of different things.
Sure.
Fine. Let's go treasure hunting. I have a couple hours. Otherwise, if I'm shopping, I want it to be like quick.
Right. I'm looking for something in particular. I want to be able to find it.
Yeah.
I'll see like if you have like dollar bins, fine. I get it. You don't want to put the hours into sorting stuff that's going to go for super cheap. But your main stock, like you're never going to sell it if people can't look for stuff.
Yeah.
So while we're speaking of sorting, question for you. Where, and I can't remember where Rainbow did it, but for you personally, when you are sorting your books, where do things like Amazing Spider-Man go, or Action Comics? Do those go under A or S?
Okay, so
the age-old question.
This is a great question. So I found that after I started at Rainbow, I appreciated how we did it at the store better than what I did. And I was like, I did it differently. I actually don't read any of those titles. And then for things like the X-Men would be my example, Uncanny versus normal versus whatever. I literally just did it by that. So base X-Men, Uncanny X-Men, but the X-Men that were actually Uncanny X-Men Volume 1 stay with those. And so just really the database program, because I use Collectors CLZ for mine. And that's really kept me honest, and it's taught me a lot, about the inconsistency of titles and barcodes and everything. It can be tough to follow, but yeah, I try my best to just keep it like that. So if I did do a lot of Spider-Man titles, it's gonna be Spider-Man, then Amazing, Sensational,
Gotcha.
Undead Spider-Man, whatever. So, which by the way, I'm really intrigued by that Spider-Man horror book coming up. Something like it's like a limited run. I don't know. It's coming out soon.
I hadn't heard of that. What is it called?
I have no idea. I just caught an article about it and it was delightful. It was like, I don't know, Spider-Man horror book. Let me see. Here it is. Deadly Neighborhood Spider-Man.
Deadly Neighborhoods. Oh, that sounds bad.
So I'm very intrigued by that.
I'll definitely pick it up. If a Spider-Man book comes out, whether it's ongoing or even a limited or a one shot, I am obligated to get it.
Oh, okay.
So I told you I'm working on a Daredevil run. I'm one book away from my Hulk run. Unfortunately, it's Hulk #1, which is tough. But I do have a full run of Spider-Man. And when I say full run of Spider-Man, I took it seriously. It's all of Amazing, all of Sensational, all of Spider-Man, all of Web, all of that, and all limited series. So if a new limited series comes out, if I don't get it, it's no longer complete. So I have to literally every Spider-Man book that comes out, I like, oh crap, another one. I have to get.
I'm committed.
I am committed. It's okay though. He's my favorite. So
that's fantastic. Wow. So here's a question for you. With all these new offerings flying at us, and you've been reading, and you've been exposed to literature throughout the decades on this character, do you have a certain favorite time period that you've encountered for your personal preference?
Man, I love Bronze Age just in general. I love Bronze Age stuff. I love Silver Age, but I love it for what it is. It does have its campiness, and I love it for its campiness. But I think when it finally hit the Bronze Age is when comics really hit their stride of having fully fleshed out story arcs, completely filling out characters and all that. And I think Spider-Man is probably no exception to that. I recently finished reading Jerry Conway's stint on Amazing Spider-Man, and I mean it may be sacrilege, but I think it is just as good as Stan Lee's run on it as far as like storytelling and content and what an impact that Jerry Conway made on the character that is still felt today. I mean, love it or hate it, he's the one that killed Gwen Stacy, right? And the ramifications of that are still going on today. And that's not what Stan Lee had wanted, but is what Jerry Conway did, and it was huge. Like it's something that's still like maybe that's Spider-Gwen, and she pops up every once in a while in other ways. But yeah, his run, he was also, love it or hate it, responsible for the Clone Saga. I for one love it. I think it's great. But yeah, that Bronze Age just in general is what I love the most, and yeah, Spider-Man is right in there.
That's awesome.
Not that the other stuff isn't great, but
yeah,
I love me some Bronze.
Well, you definitely are well read on Spider-Man. So let's dip really quick into the latest Spider-Man film. And how did that treat you?
Oh man, that was rough. That was rough. I don't know. Is there spoilers? I don't know. Is anyone?
Oh, you're fine. We do it all the time.
Yeah. Yeah. To lose Aunt May, that's. Yeah, I teared up pretty good. That was. And like, yeah, she was such a great Aunt May too.
Yeah.
Like it's the first time we've seen like a really young and spry. We'll say it, hot Aunt May. And she was like a great character. But the Aunt Mays we've seen in other iterations of Spider-Man have Aunt May played the role of Aunt May, the necessary role of Aunt May, as sort of like the doting, loving motherly figure. But the current version, which was the current version, I suppose we could say, of Aunt May was like I don't know. There's more personality there, had more characters, seemed more important to the storylines. So yeah, that was a tough loss. But yeah, all the Tom Holland stuff has been great. I haven't been disappointed in it at all.
Good. No, it was, yeah, that was a real fun one for me too. And just the mechanic, and this was another thing you had alluded to earlier, with the death of Gwen Stacy, but the moment that we make previous things matter makes me as a collector happy. And so that's also, on the flip side, my biggest pet peeve. And so when we have big events where we spend millions of dollars to get our core event books and all the tie-ins, but then 2 months later we don't even mention it and there's no callback to it, the heck did I just blow my money on here? What is this, speed bump? Are you kidding me?
Right. That's why I don't do events anymore, because for that exact reason. You know, you go all in on buying these books and tie-ins and all that stuff, and the story's good, and that's fine. If the story's good, the story's good.
Yeah.
But like you said, it has to matter. It has to change the status quo in some way.
Yeah.
So I saw, like, when they come out on digital, I'll read them on digital. I'm not buying into this crap anymore.
Yeah. So that's my biggest pet peeve. But what the Spider-Man movie did was they made all the previous movies, it makes you want to go back and rewatch them, like, oh, what little nuggets were referenced, or
yeah.
Now I gotta say, my one pet peeve with this whole thing is still, and it will always be, Lizard. The CGI surrounding it, the portrayal of the character. Doc Connors has so much to offer as a character, and he got slept on. He was filler. It was filler.
Yeah, Lizard is one of my favorite Spidey villains. I mean, it's hard to pick even a top 5 Spidey villains. There's so many of them, but Lizard is up there. And yeah, the movies have never done him justice. Because if you're reading stuff, Doc Connors plays roles in a lot of stuff. Like, he's prevalent. There's a lot of interesting things you can do with him. Man, when he turned his family into lizards, like, there's some crazy fun stuff with him. But just to have him basically just be mindless monster is a complete waste.
Yeah. So I don't know. I was hoping for more from that. That's my only gripe with it. I love seeing all 3, prominent heroes on the big screen. But more importantly, I just love seeing all the villains kind of come together and mix. And Doc Ock. And
Alfred Molina, he just
chef's kiss.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, even to this day, like, again, I love the Tom Holland movies. The Andrew Garfield movies were fine, but the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man 2 still may be like, even in this day, this renaissance of comic book movies, where it's like the stuff is great. Even Spider-Man 2 stands up to this day as one of the absolute best.
Yeah,
by far, if not the best Spider-Man movie still to date, in my opinion.
Doc Ock was great. I mean, just the fight scenes and stuff, and adored. But I just wanted to call that out. I will say, not all events are terrible. The recent Devil's Reign was fire. I don't even know Devil normally, but Devil's Reign I enjoyed personally, just because it reminded me a lot of Dark Reign. And there was a lot of, like, pushing Elektra as a character a little bit. A lot of the other stuff, like Outline, superheroes and all that's cool, but I'm like, that's not really what drew me to the book. I just really wanted to see what Fisk was up to as mayor, what Elektra's up to. I loved her look. I love the feel of Daredevil. I love that 3-issue run, Daredevil Woman Without Fear.
Oh yeah, that was great too.
Oh man.
Yeah, I read through Dark Reign because I've been reading Daredevil, and it was great. But the biggest thing that it did for me, you mentioned Elektra. Before that, I did not care at all for Elektra.
Ooh.
I didn't care at all. I thought she was an obnoxious character. I did not care for her. But that book made me like, okay, I'm on board. I love Elektra now.
Elektra.
What they did with her was so great. Like, her size that were blunted at the end, so she didn't like accidentally kill someone. And
yeah.
so good. It was so good.
Catching up on some viewer comments here. Tony's weighing in. The lizard looked more like an angered Goomba from the Mario Brothers movie from the 90s. I'm not going to argue that.
Yeah, no, he's not wrong.
Matt's checking in with us here. Spider-Man 2 is pretty much peak facts. And then Tony's also, Spider-Man 2 is one of the best to date Spider-Man movies. Yeah. Yeah. Hands down. We're, it's a cool time to be a nerd, right? So when, these Spidey movies were coming out and Iron Man was announced, I was just like, what is going on?
Yeah.
And then suddenly it starts to connect and then Avengers 1 happens. And here
Right.
we are. Here we are, drowning in TV shows and movies.
Yeah, it's kind of a blessing and a curse, right? If you would have asked me before this happened, like, would you be happy if just like pop culture got inundated with Marvel and superheroes and all this stuff?
Yeah.
I would say yes, absolutely. First of all, I wouldn't believe it would ever happen, but I'd say yes. But Star Wars also is like everywhere. It's almost to the point where it's almost too much. Like there's just too much out there. It's tough. It's also been tough as I'm an almost lifelong comic collector, and I mean I go for some big stuff sometimes. Like I have I like collecting keys and all of that. And it's definitely the spotlight on it has definitely made it a lot more expensive for me. To do that. I mean, so on one hand, I'm glad I have all this content to watch. I'm glad that they're getting the love they deserve. Mm-hmm. On the other hand, this is costing me a lot of money.
Yes.
But I mean, I'm sure that the good outweigh the bad. But yeah, I've unfortunately had to pay. So like, God, I don't want to pay this much for this book, but
no. Struggle's real. I 100% get it. And I've been doing a lot of speed collecting on a lot of Marvel horror literature. And I'm talking
Dracula,
Dracula's, all that stuff. Mummy. I'm starting to dip into the Mummy pool, Frankenstein, etc. So I'm getting my hands as much as I can. Where monsters dwell and where creatures roam and all this other stuff. It's insane. It's exciting. It's for an upcoming project. And so looking forward to chopping it up about that. But I did want to just lift up, I am adoring right behind your head, Werewolf by Night. Looking sharp.
Oh,
Marvel Spotlight.
My Spotlight too.
Yes.
Yeah.
Very, very beautiful cover. I just love that orange. We had a copy come into Rainbow and I scooped it up right away.
Oh, did you? Nice.
Yes.
Are you looking forward to the show then? I take it as a horror fan?
Yes. Yep. So I am. I have this lofty idea that I'm somehow going to be able to read all of Werewolf by Night, Volume 1, 2, and 3, and the surrounding literature of him. I don't know if that's going to happen with October 7th on the horizon.
That's a lot.
That's a lot. And I don't want to rush it. You know what I mean? Like I want to enjoy it. So I might just watch it and go in blind and review it and then do a recap video later, like following up after I read the story.
Yeah. And I think that's fine because, those what they're doing really well, especially with the TV shows, I think, in these characters, that the show leans enough into the original material, but doesn't directly echo it. So whether you watch the show first or you read it first, you're fine. You're just getting the experiences in a different order.
Yeah. I was hoping to have it all read and go in with like this, oh my gosh, like I have an understanding of Jack Russell, but I'm just gonna go speed learn, see what Disney Plus feeds me, and then I'll just read all the stuff that I've collected and be informed and then rewatch
it. I'm not worried. I have yet to be disappointed by a Disney Plus Marvel show.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm sure it's gonna be great.
Dude, heck yeah. Well, let's switch gears here really quick. One question I really just like asking, and you touched on this a little bit, but I just wanted to kind of give everyone to get familiar with you as a guest. How did you get started in comics in general? Like, what drew you to comics? What was your first book? How did you get going?
So probably be late 80s. One of my best friends at the time well, and still today, actually. He was really into comics. He was really into X-Men.
Mm.
And he started collecting, at that time, it was the Marvel Universe Series 2 trading cards.
Okay.
And he had some of them. I was flipping through them, like, these are fun. These ideas of these superheroes and whatnot. And I like cards. You know, when I was growing up, I'd collect like baseball cards and Garbage Pail Kid cards and stuff like that. So I started buying those as well, and it was something for us to do together and connect on. You know, we go ride our bikes down to a hobby shop and pick up some packs and trade and whatnot. It was a lot of fun. So that was my like introduction. So then I started buying stuff off the rack when I was like walking by a convenience store on my way home from school or something like that. And then I never really bought a lot of comics. I didn't have a lot of money to do that. So for a while, I kind of got out of it. I probably right when I got into high school, I probably stopped doing comic stuff. And I got more into like video games and some anime slipped in and whatnot. And then I really got into toy collecting. So this is now early 2000s. Well, in early 2000s, if you're a toy collector, you read Toy Fair because that's just what you do.
Yeah.
And they talked about in Toy Fair, they talked about a series called Rising Stars. You remember Rising Stars? It was Straczynski. It was put out by the Top Cow. Was the Image imprint that it came out on. And they talked about it. And did you ever watch the show Heroes?
Yes. Oh, yeah.
Okay. Heroes straight ripped off of Rising Stars.
Okay.
Where there's some event, right? And a bunch of people get powers. And it was basically that. So I went in the comic shop and started buying issues of Rising Stars because I saw about it in Toy Fair. It sounded cool. And that got me into the comic shop and just went off from there. I switched gears from toys to comics. Started reading other indies like Meta Barons. You ever read Meta Barons? So I'm also a big Dune fan.
Okay.
And I had read about Meta Barons and it sounded a lot like Dune. So I started reading it and it was great. Later to find out that there's a reason it's a lot like Dune because the person who wrote it was supposed to do the original Dune movie, but he ended up falling through. So instead he took all his ideas and put it to his own comic, and that's the Meta Barons.
Okay.
And then I eventually got back into the superhero stuff and whatnot. And then, been collecting ever since.
Heck yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah. What about you? How'd you get into it?
So X-Men was kind of my gateway as well. So down in Bellevue, before school or on the weekends or whatever, Fox Kids, X-Men 90s cartoon. I caught the episode with Jubilee versus the Sentinel at the mall and getting to meet Storm and Gambit and then Psyche in the parking lot. And I just was like, what is this show? I love this. And then Ground Zero Hobby Baby for my 95 Fleers cards and, whatever I could get my little mitts on. So it wasn't comics. It was the cards. It was, if there was ever a thing on a cereal box, I'd be cutting that out. Pizza Hut toys. There was a set of figures where they were fighting against the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants. So, that kind of stuff. And these were toys that now I'm like, okay, $3 bin at the comic shop or whatever. But back then, this was my life. Like, they were fighting against each other. It was fun. So I actually started collecting comics when we were stationed on an Air Force base in Japan. And we had one spinny rack on the whole base. So it was me versus a bunch of servicemen and women that read comics. And I never really pinned down when new comics came out. So I basically walked to the little stores, like a 25-minute walk from my house, just to go check and see if there were new books. And it was X-Men, because during the 90s it was X-Men, Uncanny X-Men, X-Factor I dabbled in, and then X-Force was another steady one for me. Plus all the specials and annuals. Mutant X was another one I got into during that time. So it was It was pretty cool. The first comic I ever owned was Uncanny X-Men 323, the one where Juggernaut got punched across the country by Onslaught. So it's Juggernaut on the just all sprawled out, and Bishop's looking at him like, dude, you good?
Yeah.
And that copy, I still have it. I didn't even get a replacement. It is beat to hell because I've read that thing.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
And I love that. Like, that's my celebration. Represent.
Right.
That's, from there, it just really picked up to trying different series. I'm actually a lot like you, where high school hit, I stopped and just focused on like band. I was a band nerd. And then college, same thing. I was a band nerd and just kind of go. And then right after that, I met Tom, my co-host on A Comic Book Look. We both worked for a prominent financial institution, right over the wall from each other, and we just got to arguing about what a good comic book was. One day and said we should film this and make a show, and 11 years later, here we are. So that's amazing. So behind me, what you can't see is that I have a whole tribute wall to Dark Avengers from Marvel. So I actually literally idolize it so much. I'll show you it here. This is hilarious because Tom hates that I love this so much. But I have the team poster.
Oh, nice.
And then I have all these other things like frames and stuff and like custom stuff. It's all Dark Avengers.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So that's my tribute wall to the Dark Avengers, because that's what got me back into comics was Dark Reign, the event.
Oh, okay.
And so I choose to keep it up just because it reminds me of my why, and I love it. So,
right on.
Yeah.
What was it about Dark Reign that pulled you back in?
So I root for the bad guys typically.
Okay.
I love a good villain. I love a good I just love a good book, and the Dark Avengers really reminded me of the Thunderbolts.
Sure, yeah,
and obviously a lot of crossover with some of the characters, in there and principles. But I love a good anti-hero. I love just seeing the world shaken upside down and just give me something different. And so I was really excited about that. I thought a lot of the side series for Dark Reign actually did really well too, which was really impressive for an event, because sometimes it's a lot of duds.
Yes.
So ultimately it's just kind of my jam. So
makes sense.
Yeah. I saw we had, I think maybe this one might be for you, but Vinyl and Comic Books is this Titan guy talking about comics again.
Oh, hey, what's up, Derek? How you doing, man? Yeah, that's actually one of my local friends. Actually, I met him through my business, my pressing business. His friend had found me for services through Legend Comics, and Derek. I don't know if he had anything on that first order, but eventually Derek started putting stuff on they shared orders and whatnot. And since we were local, there were a couple of times that we just kind of hung out, and we'll still every once in a while. It's been probably too long. We'll get together and have a board game night. But yeah. Hey, Derek, thanks for stopping by.
Yes, that's awesome. And I did want to touch upon that. Tell me about comic book pressing. So we had one guest earlier this year that also does it. But I wanted to hear kind of about your journey, how you got into it, what drew you to it, and what it all entails.
Sure. Yeah. So a while ago, I had gotten an Amazing Spider-Man. Oh, this is embarrassing. It's the first Black Cat. I'm usually so on the tip with this stuff. What number it is? Derek, you're gonna embarrass me. I don't 194. 194. Yes, there you go. 194. I'd gotten that issue, and I was considered getting it graded. I've done grading before and sent stuff in to get graded. And I was considered getting it graded, so I took it into one of my comic shops and showed it to someone, and I just wanted their opinion on it. Like, what do you think it would get? Whatever. And he told me, like, I don't know, I think like maybe it's probably a 7 or something like that. But it definitely could be improved with a pressing.
Mm.
And I never really thought about that. So like, oh, okay, cool. So then I went home and started looking up comic pressing and techniques and how it's done and all that stuff. So I just started I started figuring it out. You know, I bought all the materials. I went to the comic shop and started digging through. At that time, they still had quarter bins.
Mm-hmm.
So digging through quarter bins for like stuff that was beat up that I could practice on.
Mm-hmm.
Looking for all the different types of defects that could be addressed. So I found stuff that was like just really dirty, stuff that was just kind of wrinkly, stuff that had spine rolls, all that kind of stuff, and just started practicing over and over and over again until I kind of felt comfortable doing real books. Then I did some of my own books and like, all right, cool. And I felt there wasn't really a presence of that here in Omaha. So I opened up like, I have good connections here with probably the two biggest stores here in Omaha. So I put the business together and started advertising, and yeah, that's that. Been doing it for, I don't know, 3-4 years now, somewhere around there.
That's awesome.
Yeah, somewhere around probably 3.5 years, I think. But yeah, it's just a little side thing. I don't really advertise. Most of my stuff is word of mouth. That keeps me sort of busy enough. Like there's a lot of pressers out there that I think are just like, send me your stuff, I'll press them and give them back to you. And they're all about like the volume, right? Where what I like to do, especially with customers that are like local, is I like to meet them. I like to sit down with them and talk to them and find like, what are your goals? It helps me know like what sort of stuff I should do. Are you looking just to like press them and sell them, or are they for your personal collection? Are you about the grade, or you just want them to look better? Because I'll suggest doing different things to them based upon that. Instead of like, just send me your stuff, I'll do whatever and send them back to you. Like one of the reasons I started doing it is I wanted to make connections with people. And so when I can sit down and talk to people and make those connections, like, and I you know, Derek, because I did that and when I sit down and talk with people, I, you know, ended up making friends out of it. It's the way that I like to do it. I met with a new customer last week. He messaged me, we ended up talking on the phone, and I told him like, yeah, I want to meet, we can sit together or whatever. And he's like, that's exactly what I want to hear. I want to meet with someone who actually cares and is willing to talk to me about stuff. So that's just kind of how I roll with that business.
Absolutely.
I prefer, I'm okay not making a lot of money off of it because I do it mostly because I love to do it. And for those people, I want to give them the best service that they can and give them a personal touch. So that's
awesome.
That's what I do.
Yeah, very nice. That's cool.
Yeah, always working on something, always pressing something, finding like new techniques and stuff all the time. So it's kind of, to me, it's kind of like an art. I know some people are arts, like they can draw or sculpt or whatever. To me, there's an art to pressing. So that's kind of my artistic outlet.
That's awesome, dude. What's the craziest book that you've worked on where you're like, oh?
So I've worked on an X-Men 1.
Okay.
And I'm about to work. This is great, and Derek knows this story. So this customer this new customer I just met recently, his mom goes to like garage sales and stuff, and it's yard sales and estate sales and whatnot. And he's told his mom, if ever you're there and they have comics, just get them, whatever. So she went to a yard sale and she bought like a stack, probably that big, of comics for like $30. And she just bought them and took like, here you go, son, or whatever. And he's flipping through them. And there's a Journey into Mystery 83 in it. First Thor.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Just $30 stack of books, and there's a first appearance of Thor in it. Now it is not in great shape. It is not in great shape. It's probably like maybe a 1/8.
Yeah.
But $30.
Still cool.
I mean, it's still like a $4,000 book.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'll be working on that one soon. That's probably the two biggest I've worked on. Some of my own personal big ones I had graded before I started doing pressing, and I'm okay with leaving them how they are. But yeah, I get some big ones every once in a while. I have a Amazing Spider-Man 129 First Punisher in the press right now. So yeah, I get some fun stuff. But yeah, I've done Golden Age all the way up to Modern. They all present their own challenges. But yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Heck yeah. And for all the viewers that are tuning in that aren't familiar with this, comic book pressing can address the following issues for comic books.
Sure. So I do both cleaning and pressing. So cleaning, if there's like gunk or stuff on there, you can sometimes get that stuff off. A lot of times, especially on older books like silver, bronze, getting into modern, so your copper around there. If you look at the back of the book, a lot of times where there's white, you'll see a lot of like black. It's used from finger oil or from other stuff. A lot of that stuff can be cleaned up real nice. And then pressing, if you have, even on modern books, when you see a little bit of waviness, then it just comes off the press that way. You get it off the shelf like that. Bends, so spine rolls. So like if a book has been stored improperly, so you'll see like the spine is kind of is rolled up. You usually tell by that. Like if you look at the back of the book and you can see a bunch of the inner pages fanned out as it's just sitting down, it's usually because of spine roll. But you'd be surprised on you look at a book and you think it looks fine, but after a press you can see how flat it really can get. But that it can increase grade, which increases value and so on. So if you ever are going to get something graded, I always say no matter what, always press. Press. Even if it's a new modern book right off the shelf, always press, because you never know what little things can come out. And a lot of people, most of my customers do end up submitting stuff to grading services, which I will handle because it's a pain in the butt, especially now with like the bad customer service and turnaround times are crazy. So for most people, they'll say like, here, you take care of it. I will pay you to take care of the hard stuff. And then they just don't have to worry about it.
Yep.
Cool. Yeah, there's one time I sent a modern book in without pressing it, and I regret it. So from that point on, I'm like, you know what? No matter what, just always press. That's one I probably need to crack and press and resend. Get that bump from a 9.6 to a 9.8.
That's awesome. Well, good. Well, we are approaching our infamous hour mark. I was telling Patrick at the start of the show, I actually am flying to work after this to help out at an event at the distillery that I work at part-time. And so that'll be kind of fun to sling some boozy lattes and save the world that way. Yeah, it's delightful. But it has been an absolute pleasure getting to talk to you. And just so everybody knows, Patrick and we got to talk about 20 minutes or so at the shop. And when you're at the shop and you're at work, you don't like get to like just put your feet up or whatever like we are right now. So this really has been a treat. We've kept in touch through Messenger, just really lightly, just to get a vibe for when we're going to do this. So this really is our first meet and greet, and we wanted to just be on camera. And so thank you for taking time to visit with me today.
No, absolutely. Thanks for having me. I had a lot of fun.
The Infinity Stones speak that this might be a possible crossover and there might be a part 2, but it might not be on my channel. So we'll see about that. So for all of the comic book lookers out there, give Titan Comic Pressing a follow on social media and stay tuned for that, because you never know when I might pop up and what we're going to be chopping it up about. And it'll be fun. It's so cool to have just more Midwestern presence online, and I absolutely loved getting
we're around,
and it's awesome. So thank you for today. Before we shut it down, fill people in. Where can we find you online?
So I have 2 main presences. Instagram, I am at Titan Comic Pressing LLC, all surrounded by underscores. and on YouTube at Titan Comic Pressing LLC, all together. On YouTube, I'll do a video every Wednesday, just talking about what I picked up for that week. And then I'll try to do something like every other weekend. It might be something out of my collection. I'll go over, I collect a lot of runs of things. So sometimes I'll say, here's a run that I have, and go through every issue, or just talk about other collectible stuff. I'll do just stream of consciousness, thought type stuff. And every once in a while, when I have something that I think I can show from a pressing angle, I'll do like tutorials on how to do different pressing things. It's to the point now where like I have to wait until I have something come in that I can do it on. But if you are interested in pressing, you can go look in the back catalog of YouTube videos. I have a lot of stuff there. I go over a lot of different techniques and whatnot. So it's this combination of pressing topics and kind of personal blog stuff for collecting in general.
That's awesome. Well, you guys seriously give him a follow. Connect. That's the name of the game. And yes, we are definitely looking forward to a part 2, and it's all in the cards. So we will see how that goes. Wrapping up the show then, thank you so much for joining both of us today, and looking forward to future collaborations there. And of course, Patrick, if you come through the doors at Rainbow, just make sure it's Wednesday through Saturday so I can be there.
Okay, I'll try to plan my vacations around that.
Yes, that's the same spirit. All right. Well, you guys, it's your boy John on Demand. Again, a comic book look proudly sponsored by Rainbow Comics up here in Sioux Falls. It's 42nd and Minnesota Avenue. Or if you're in Lincoln, Nebraska, say howdy to the team down there. Happy to help you with those comic book and collectible needs. On the socials, you can find me collectively at @John on Demand, as it says on my little name tag here. So hit me up. If you're on Facebook, so if you're watching on YouTube and want to join a comic book look or group on Facebook, connect with us, continue the conversation. We'd love to have you. Other than that, we're going to go ahead and shut it down. And in proper comic book look fashion, how do we shut it down? We tell you to keep it comics for sure, man. And have an excellent rest of your weekend, you guys. See you.